Ocarina of Time has recently been announced to be getting a full remake on the Switch 2. This is amazing news, as it's one of the greatest games of all time. In this video, I'm going to be going over some of the things that I'd like to see in the remake. The original is a classic, there's no doubting that. However, it was severely limited due to the Nintendo 64's hardware. With a full remake, there's so much they can do to make the experience that much better. These are in no particular order, by the way, it's just me listing some ideas off. Firstly, I'd really love to see Hyrule Field fleshed out a bit more with more things to do. When the game was released, Hyrule Field was groundbreaking. Having such an open space was very impressive in 1998, but with time, it definitely shown its age. Compared to modern standards, Hyrule Field is barren, empty, and quite frankly, boring. It's clear that a lot of it was designed around using Epona to get around. There just isn't a whole lot to do either. Only a couple of grottos that give trivial loot. I think it would be awesome if Nintendo fleshed out this area a bit more and made it worth exploring. I don't expect or even want something as large as Breath of the Wild's Hyrule, but I do want something that isn't just a hub to get to other areas. I want to actually see landmarks and secrets worth exploring. The original game had a very bad looking texture to mask how small the map actually was. With the expanded hardware of the Switch 2, they could definitely make the map look much, much better. On top of the expanded world, I'd love to see more interesting NPCs. There weren't many characters to interact with in the base game. Most of them resided in Castle Town or Kakariko Village. Even with those few NPCs, they weren't very fleshed out. Majora's Mask is where NPCs really got an overhaul. If Nintendo gave us more NPCs, or at least added the level of depth to them as was in Majora's Mask, I think it would really improve the world building. It would be great to see NPCs outside of smaller areas too. For example, the only NPC you really see in Hyrule Field is the Running Man. There are literally no other NPCs you encounter here. Imagine how cool it would be to see small settlements after Ganondorf's takeover of Hyrule, people that weren't so lucky and couldn't get into Kakariko Village. Maybe you could even talk to some of them and see what they think of the whole situation. There's so much potential for Nintendo to make NPCs more of a focal point. The main story in Ocarina of Time is great, but I think it could be better. The main gist of it is that Zelda doesn't trust Ganondorf, and sends Link to get all the spiritual stones in an effort to stop him. This ends up being a mistake, as it only expedites Ganondorf's plans of taking over Hyrule. While Link takes the Master Sword, Ganondorf sneaks into the Sacred Realm and takes the Triforce of Power, making himself the evil king and plunging Hyrule into chaos. My issue with this is that you don't actually see these events take place. There's just a 7-year time skip, and you only see the result of Ganondorf's takeover. The rest is up to interpretation. While I think the shock value of suddenly seeing Hyrule in dismay is important, I think it's also important that we get to see Ganondorf's takeover in-game. Maybe keep it the way it was, where it's a surprise to the player, but show flashbacks to see how it got to the way it was. Maybe there could be a cutscene after each adult dungeon that you beat. But I mean, really show it. None of the Secret Stone nonsense from Tears of the Kingdom where it's the same cutscene with a different character. Hero's Purpose is a fan-made animated series made by Major Link on YouTube, and there is a scene that does fill this in a little bit. It's a great series, I recommend watching it, and I'm going to leave a link to it in the description. There's just so much within the game that isn't really shown or explained, and I think it would make the game so much better if we could actually see and experience some of these events, instead of having to interpret what they would be like. Background lore in the original game was scarce. All we know is that there was a civil war before the events of the game took place, and it resulted in Link being brought to the Kokiri Forest. Besides hearing a bit of this from the Deku Tree Sprout after beating the Forest Temple, there isn't really much in the way of storytelling here. I think the story would really benefit from a prologue depicting the Hyrulean Civil War. Obviously, at the time, it was nearly impossible to show something that complex on the Nintendo 64. But this is the perfect opportunity to show what it was, how it affected the people of Hyrule, and also how the different races interacted with each other. I'd love to see at least a cutscene of Link being brought to the forest as a baby. Ocarina of Time is one of the few Zelda games that has a direct sequel, and also an indirect sequel in the form of Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Majora's Mask is a direct sequel, taking place right after the game, and Twilight Princess takes place many years after that, following the descendant of Link from Ocarina of Time. It would be really cool to see some elements from both games show up in Ocarina of Time. For example, what if the game ended with Link in the woods looking for Navi, which leads right into Majora's Mask? Or if you could see Majora's Mask in the Happy Mask shop. Maybe the Happy Mask salesman even talks about how he recently acquired this fancy, rare, dangerous mask. Or maybe they could show Link actually warning the King of Hyrule of Ganondorf's intentions and what led up to his attempted execution in Twilight Princess. There's a lot of potential to connect this game to the others since so much branches off of it. Ocarina of Time is where the Zelda timeline splits into three: the child timeline, the adult timeline, or the fallen hero timeline. It's possible that with this new remake, Nintendo could rework the timeline split, and I'm all for this, as with the addition of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it's hard to place them in the geriatric timeline from 2011. I don't know if this would actually happen, as the timeline is confusing enough as it is with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I think it would be great to see Nintendo at least try to clean it up a bit and make more sense of it. Even though I think this would be great, I just don't think Nintendo would actually do it. Even back when the timeline was released, it seemed like they just pulled it out of their butt to please the fans that were begging for a timeline. It's highly unlikely to me that they thought of a timeline while making each of the games before Skyward Sword. Always nice to wish, though. There were several elements from the beta of Ocarina of Time that didn't make it into the actual game. It's heavily implied that there was going to be a wind and light temple. For starters, the Forest Medallion actually has a wind symbol on it. The Forest Trial in Ganon's Castle is literally all wind themed. There's so much pointing to the Wind Temple being scrapped. The Light Medallion doesn't really make much sense being in the Temple of Time. It's given to Link after the time jump, but I think it was originally designed to be given at the end of a scrapped Light Temple. This would be the perfect time to add this into the game, even if it's smaller than the other temples, just to make it make more sense. Speaking of the medallions, in old beta footage, you can actually see that the medallions are equipable items. Imagine how cool it would be if Nintendo brought back this feature and gave each medallion an elemental effect similar to Din's fire, or fire, ice, or light arrows. The Triforce is something that is shown off heavily in the storytelling of Ocarina of Time, but you don't actually get to obtain or use it. It simply shows up at the end of the game. At the time, there were many rumors about getting the Triforce, and many people claimed they actually got it. All of these were just hoaxes. But it was at a time in which data mining wasn't really a thing yet. No one really knew exactly what was in a game the way we do now. There was a bit of evidence to support the Triforce being an obtainable item though. In the quest menu, there's a section that shows each of the medallions as you collect them. In the middle of it is an outline of the Triforce, implying that it is an item you can obtain. Maybe with this remake they can finally give us the option of using or at least obtaining the Triforce in some way, making the dreams of all Ocarina of Time players a reality. In the original game, there was only one main collectible, Gold Skulltula tokens. You get these by defeating Gold Skulltulas, and you actually exchange them for rewards with the Cursed Family in Kakariko Village. The main issue I have with this is that there aren't any good rewards for finding all 100 of them. The main reward for finding all 100 is a lousy 200 rupees. You can farm it, but by the time you get to this point of the game, you probably don't need to buy anything. It's the same type of feeling you get after getting Hestu's gift for getting all the Koroks in Breath of the Wild. I think this is a great opportunity to not only add more collectibles to the game, but also give the player a much better reward for finding all of them. Maybe a golden tunic or something gold themed that would give you a buff. My point being, there needs to be a collectible that's actually worth someone's time, especially if they increase the size of the world. After becoming an adult and talking to the man in the windmill in Kakariko Village, he claims that a kid played the Song of Storms and messed up the windmill. He then teaches you the song, and you can play it as a child to mess up the windmill to gain access to the bottom of the well. The issue is that this is now a paradox, specifically a bootstrap paradox. This means that there is no discernible origin to the song because of how Link learns about it. Link learns about the song as an adult, with the man stating that Link already played the song as a child 7 years ago, which means he would have already known about it as a child before becoming an adult. Are you confused yet? I sure am. Technically, there is actually an origin in Majora's Mask. In the Ikana graveyard, Link actually finds the Song of Storms written on a stone tablet inside of the tomb of Flat, one of the two composer brothers. This can be seen as the true origin of the Song of Storms, as Link is still a child during this time, and he could have realized that this was the true origin of the song, and played it at the windmill after returning from Termina, then teaching it to the windmill guy. This is pretty far-fetched though. It definitely sounds like this was a goof up by Nintendo, and they could totally fix it by just changing the way Link learns about it. I still think the paradox is really funny though. One of the things that confused me was how little the Gerudos speak of Ganondorf. He's literally their king, and no one really mentions him or his upbringing at all. I'd love to see more about how Ganondorf was involved and led the Gerudo, perhaps as part of the Hyrulean Civil War, similar to how we see him commanding the Gerudo army in Tears of the Kingdom. The only person that really mentions Ganondorf is Nabooru. No one really talks about how Ganondorf ruled the Gerudo or how others in the Gerudo regarded him. There was never even a throne room or anything in the Gerudo area to suggest that Ganondorf lived or even ruled there. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please consider liking and subscribing. Also, let me know what you'd like to see in the remake. I'd love to hear from you.